The country's leading LGBTQ plus rights group, the Human Rights Campaign, is making a major push ahead of November's midterm elections, pouring $15 million into strategic investments to reach voters and focusing on 8 battleground House districts currently represented by Republicans. Joining us now, the president of the Human Rights Campaign, Kelly Robinson. Kelly, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with this investment and those battleground districts you're targeting. What would tell us about them? What went into that selection process?
Yeah, well, first of all, happy Pride.
Yes.
We got millions of people turning out around the country for LGBTQ plus issues, for rights, and for our lives. And I say that because when I think about what we've got to do this election cycle, it's taking all the energy from this month and translating it into action and into votes. And right now, the LGBTQ plus community can be the difference maker this year. 10% of the electorate identifies as a member of our community. And by 2040, it'll be 20%. So the size of our community is not in question. It's how can we turn out to make sure that in these districts that matter, we are changing the game. And when we do that, we can put a check on Donald Trump and all these MAGA extremists that are continuing to undermine our rights.
And what part of that is going to be to try to rebut what we have heard now for a number of years, where Trump in particular, but many on his party, really focusing on trans issues? Like that seems to be almost one of the reflexive go-to attack points. They feel like that worked in 24. It can again. How do you respond?
Well, this is the thing. We have to bring the conversation back to the people. Because at the end of the day, what we are fighting for is equal rights. I'm fighting for the right for my community not to get fired at work because you're gay. I'm fighting for the right for trans people to be able to serve in the military, to sign up to protect this country. We're fighting for the right for kids to be able to be who they are in the classroom. And I think that with all of the discourse and dialogue, we got to bring the conversation back to the people. So while we're really focused on this electoral campaign and turning out votes, this is really a hearts and minds effort to make sure that folks understand that LGBTQ plus people are your neighbors, your friends, we're members of the community, and we care about each other, and we're a part of the American story.
So you're focused on 8 House seats and really the Senate too. So what does that look like? What are people, you're on the ground in these places, traveling around, talking to people. What does it look like? What does the electorate feel like right now? What are you seeing?
Look, people are engaged. Our community is more enthusiastic about this election and enthusiastic about turning out this early in the cycle than nearly any other community, and that matters. So we've got to give them the tools to do it when we know it's going to be a tough year with barrier upon barrier in front of us. Those 8 districts that we talked about are from, California to New York, Michigan to Arizona, districts that were decided by a small number of votes in 2024 that we can be the difference makers in. We've got a model called the Equality Voter Model that helps us to identify voters that prioritize LGBTQ plus issues and equality when they go out and vote. We know who to talk to. We know where they are. We've just got to do the work to turn them out.
Say more about those barriers, because I think there's a lot of anxiety about what this administration might do on the federal level to make it harder for people to vote.
Look, these are scary times, right? I mean, in Kansas, they've tried to take away trans people's access to driver's licenses, right? The SAVE Act that they were moving in Congress, all of those bad bills that impact women's ability to get out and vote, it also impacts the LGBTQ plus community. So we can't just win by a little bit this year. We have to have a blowout victory that is undeniable. The size of our community can produce that, but we got to make sure that folks can turn out and that they have the information to do so. And if their rights are infringed upon, that they've got the tools to fight back.
So tell us what you think that these sort of decisive issues might be. Are they things in the cultural sphere, or at the end of the day, is it going to be about kitchen table issues?
Look, LGBTQ plus people, we care about the same things as everyone else. The Human Rights Campaign Foundation did a poll of our community to see what was top of mind for us. And the issues were, 1, government accountability and dealing with, all of the chaos that's happening in Washington and across the country, healthcare and the premiums that are going up, as well as healthcare access and affordability. So I say that because any candidate that wants to mobilize our community, you got to talk to us about the same issues that you're talking to about with everyone else, and make sure that at the end of the day, whether you're thinking about the economy or you're thinking about safety or healthcare, that LGBTQ plus people have the same rights and access as everyone else. And when you do that, you can be on the side of equality, but also on the side of our community.
President of the Human Rights Campaign and Human Rights Campaign Foundation, Kelly Robinson. Kelly, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.